Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program because we're hitting the ground running. We've got our guest in the studio, Matt Smith. Good morning. Thanks for being on the show.
Good morning, Frank.
Let me just say, first of all, congratulations on 175 years in business with the Corning Building Company. And I think everybody would want me to ask, how do you survive 175 years?
Yeah, it's quite a feat,
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's an understatement.
I think obviously the Corning community is such a strong community. A lot of pillars of businesses that have been here a long time.
Of course.
Corning Incorporated, but the people, the community is great, and without hesitation, our number one asset is our people. I have a lot of great employees that have been with us for decades. Their kids have been with decades. So it's not only am I a fourth generation business, but we've had generations of employees that have worked with us, have built relationships with the customers and the contractors and the various businesses that do business with us.
And hasn't that always been the case? I know you've got such a great reputation that when someone needs help on something or someone knows exactly what they think they need, they go to you.
Yes, we have great employees, and each one has a specialty. They might be really good kitchen designer. They might be good with plumbing.
Sure.
My brother's fantastic with getting specialty building materials to our contractors and our commercial accounts. So a bunch of great employees that each have a little niche of knowledge,
Of course.
And the relationship they've built with the customer base.
And I want to talk, pardon me, I want to talk about the history here in just a second, but you have a celebration coming up, and it's on September 22nd. What does that celebration mean specifically to you, but also the staff, like you said, that have been there for so long?
Well, it's going to be a fun event on the 22nd. We've got my advertising manager, Chris Miller, brought in a dozen different vendors that are bringing in product and goods and information and knowledge and demos. Right. It could be windows or doors or kitchen cabinetry, insulation, just different building materials. And it's going to be a fun event, because through COVID we weren't able to do a lot of these big remotes or events and community things. And I go back to our 150th anniversary, which is 25 years ago.
It goes
hard
quick.
to believe, where we did things with balloon rides for the United Way, and we had all these vendors, and the parking lot was packed. And you're not able to really do too many things like that. So it's kind of a wake up call. It's like we are
we're
still
back.
here.
We're
175. We've still been going strong. COVID blessed us. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses that hurt with us because people couldn't travel. They couldn't go out to eat. They were working on their homes. They were building decks. They were painting. They were redoing their kitchens or their bathrooms and just doing home projects because that's where they were going to be.
And you guys were the go-to. I mean, it was perfect, right? So let's talk about the history for a moment, because it's fascinating. When you think about 175 years, do you consider yourself kind of someone that studies the history of the store?
Well,
you've lived. I'm not saying you lived 175 years of it,
but my brother and I are the last two of the fourth generation, and he's been there 52 years. I've been there 44 years. So we grew up in the lumber yard. All the three boys grew up in the lumber yard, and my sister was in the office or down at the front checkout. So we know the business inside and out. So along with that comes the history. So it started in 1848. Wow. Our great-grandfather got involved in the late 1890s, and he was one of the original three to incorporate it in 1905. And then, my grandfather and then my parents bought up the outstanding shares in the business in the late 60s, and here we are in 2023, and it's like, oh my golly!
I know, it looks amazing when you sit on the poster. 1848 to 2023, and of course, many years to come. We were talking off the air, and I was fascinated to hear how it changed through the years, location-wise, but to consolidate before really consolidation was a thing.
Right. So a lot of people, unless they're longtime residents of Corning, which a lot of us are, might not know that we were spread out throughout the downtown Corning. So we had our main lumberyard concrete plant on both sides of Tioga Avenue between the drive-through for M&T Bank and Tom Reed's office. Okay. We had a double storefront right next to your studio which was our hardware store, and it had a little chute across the alleyway to the lumberyard, so they were kind of connected above the alley. Amazing? And then the old Pine Street store, which was the Corning Revere store, and a paint store also. So we used to go to a paint store or a lumber store or an appliance store.
Spend the whole day.
And then with the flood of 72 and urban renewal, we moved the operation consolidation under one roof in 1976 when it was finally redone to South Corning, which was formerly the FBC, Family Bargain Center, in South Corning. And during the flood, that entire plaza, that entire main store, 42,000 square feet, was underwater from the flood. And with urban renewal, we moved down there, and all the departments became one. So it was a consolidation, and it was a true home center where you had everything under one roof.
One-stop shopping, right?
Well, 6 acres with drive-through sheds out back for your lumber and building materials and windows and doors and things. And it was a new concept before Home Depot and Lowe's even really hit it big.
Sure.
So we were really, again, blessed. I told you we were blessed with COVID. We were blessed, ironically, with the flood to get us into one location and hit the ground running.
Stop being blessed then, because if I don't want to know what's next. No, but it sounds like, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. Corning's story is very much your story, and vice versa.
Obviously,
you're such a part of the history,
right? So, again, we're very fortunate to have strong pillars in this community. Corning Incorporated, obviously, is the big flag, but there's a lot of other businesses that have been here for generations. That started back in the mid 1800s, and there's very few of us left of that. But the customer base is very loyal. They built the relationships with us. A lot of them established credit with Corning Building Company when they were young. Their fathers or their grandfathers did business with us. Again, it all boils down to people and the community and the relationship that we've built through the times.
How many do you find people stopping in just to chat?
Yes. So when we remodeled our store inside and out back in 2015, 2016, we did it with a concept with black and white pictures from all of our old locations, the South Corning Plaza before we moved down there when it was underwater, or pictures of my great aunt or grandfather, the Pine Street store, the headquarters at the corner of Tioga and Cedar. The light, which is now Centerway Bridge, that used to go right into our lumber yard. You couldn't go over the bridge. So a lot of the memories, historical, nostalgic, that goes part of our history. That's part of our fabric of Corning Building Company.
What's changed the most since you've been there?
I have to say our success beyond our people and our employees and our customers, for that matter, is that we've really been able to adapt and diversify. So if a certain competitor can't get major appliances during COVID,
I remember that.
we could. So I took our old furniture store and we filled it with appliances, and we had the demand, and we filled the niche, and the customers were, "Oh, you really have it in stock, and I could pick it up for today?"
I had my dishwasher because of you guys. You were the
it's
only ones at
that,
town.
or our kitchen and bath design center. My competition really doesn't do kitchen and bath design too well. I have 4 wonderful designers that you can come in and get the concepts. And of course, the lumber side of the business is by volume the biggest by far. And a lot of people don't realize. They come into a 42,000 square foot store and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what a beautiful store." They don't realize out back there's 6 acres with drive-through sheds and all we have. And I have 3 outside salespeople. So we go to Keuka Lake and Seneca Lake or Watkins Glen and a little bit down into PA. We follow our contractors wherever they go and supply them with the building materials. We also do a lot of business with commercial accounts around here, Storeflex and Corning Incorporated and Siemens, the old Dresser brand, the municipalities, the hospitals. So it's a lot bigger than just a retail quote-unquote business. And that's part of the diversification. You've got to find a niche that other people don't fill. And if you have the people, which we do, go for it and make a statement with it.
Something we've talked about on the program a lot is people are finding it difficult to find employees. So how do you find such amazing employees?
Again, really fortunate with employees. I've mentioned that, I'm a 4th generation. We had employees that have their kids or their grandkids or workers. Literally, right now, I have a grandmother, a son, and a grandson that work for us.
That's amazing.
I tell a lot of people in the community, I could not run this business without my retirees. That's a really big niche that we've found. Because getting employees that want to work is difficult for any business. And these are people that may have worked for me either at our Old Bath location or our furniture store when that was open, that want to continue to work on a part-time basis, or I have employees that work for other corporations, and they like the camaraderie, they like the customer base, and we've been fortunate to keep them.
Yeah. Before we go, because I want to talk about, again, September 22nd, 11:30 till 1:30. Sounds like this is going to be an amazing event, because it also says here, and I should highlight this, enjoy lunch on you guys.
Yeah. So we're going to be cooking hot dogs,
nice.
and we have a lot of vendors and giveaways, prize giveaways. So
Yes.
a lot of the vendors are bringing back gift baskets, so canning supplies, outdoor living, a chair. We're giving away things like that, gift cards, a mini refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
I think we got some tools, DeWalt Tough Tool System, vanity top, gift baskets, faucets.
Sure.
It's just going to be one of those fun get together, stop down and
See
see
your old
your
friends,
neighbors,
yeah.
see some of your old employees, and it will be fun. And I give a lot of credit to Chris Miller, my advertising manager. She coordinated this whole thing.
Wow.
You get going on these things. It's like 170. Well, we need to do something,
Right,
Matt. And
of
it's
course.
Like, all right, make it happen. Let's go with it.
And how's the planning going? Good.
It's going very well.
Yeah.
She's got it all tied up in a nice bow.
Well, it's getting crunch time.
It's
She's got to
getting
be.
crunch
She's
time.
got to be busy. I should also highlight that your 2023 fall merchandise book's out.
Yeah, so every spring and fall, with our vendor partner, Do It Best, which is our major co-op for hardware, we put out catalogs, one in the spring and one in the fall. And right now is the one the fall. Each catalog, there's entry forms. It's a great big thick, usually like a 50 to 60 page book that has a registration form for a $500 drawing, and we give 2 500 drawings out each spring and fall. So come on down, get a hot dog, fill out your registration form, grab a catalog, and see the excitement.
I know you've got me sold. So now the big question, what's next for the next 175 years?
Well, that's a great question, Frank. We're going to just concentrate on probably the next
On
5
September
years
22nd?
and get through next week and then
Yeah.
the rest of the year and hopefully the snow holds off this fall and winter and doesn't come for a while, and so people can continue to build and do their home improvement projects.
Well, perfect. Matt, thanks so much for being on the show. Best of luck on September
Frank,
22nd. Excuse me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Well, how much fun was that? Thank you to Matt Smith from the Corning Building Company. It really is such a, I know I bring this up a lot, but it really is about community on this program, right? And we talk about the importance of community and getting involved. And when you hear the history of Corning Building Company, it really is Corning's history. And it is about the community. And that's why I asked, do you have people just stop in to say hi? Because it's got that feel of the barber shop or the general store, of going in and just chatting. So thank you to Matt Smith for being on the program. Speaking of Corning's history, let me get to this, and then we're going to get to a couple comments from you from yesterday. But I had to mention this because Dwayne Eddy from Corning, New York. And it's not all about Corning. I know there's a lot of people watching from outside of Corning. I thank you. But Dwayne Eddy, the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Musicians Hall of Famer, Steuben County Hall of Famer, born in Corning, New York. I received this from his fan club, the Dwayne Eddy Circle. They don't call it a fan club. It's a Dwayne Eddy Circle. If you're interested, you can find it online. There's a one-of-a-kind, wait till you hear this, Gibson Les Paul guitar. And it's called the Spirit of America. And it was on display at Ellis Island Immigration Museum. This trip to New York City was a homecoming of sorts for the custom guitar, because listen, this is so amazing to me. It was built at Gibson's Custom and Historic Division in Nashville, Tennessee, because it was crafted out of materials gathered from the Statue of Liberty during its renovations. So an actual guitar made from, if you will, pieces of the Statue of Liberty while it was being renovated. The wood for the Spirit of America's guitar, its body, comes from Lady Liberty's stairs and doors, and the copper inlay and hardware is genuine Liberty copper. Even the display for the guitar is a piece of Liberty. It's part of a bar from the statue's torch handle. And of course, I can't tell you about all this without showing you. This is our friend of Frankly Speaking, Dwayne Eddy, playing, we assume, the guitar. There it is. Isn't that amazing? You see there on the fretboard, I think it's called, Let Freedom Ring. I thought that was a really cool, and just something positive to talk about before we move on to some of the negatives of the day. So there's our friend Dwayne Eddy. If you recall, if you're new to the program, he was on, you can find it on YouTube. He was on, I want to say the first couple weeks of the show here. So, all right, now let's get to some of the news stories of the day. First, as I said, this is a nice comment that I wanted to read. We're just doing a little housekeeping. Stick with us here. Here we go. First text. This is from yesterday. I love Joe's interviews. He brings in reality so well. He does. This is Joe Sempolinski. I like the next statement. Joe is so great. I'm thinking Joe Sempolinski for governor. Well, I will be talking with Joe on Sunday at the Scope Barbecue, and I will pass that along to him because I couldn't agree more. I think Joe would make a great governor. He was an amazing congressman. To think of how much he accomplished in 4 short months, just amazing. So I always enjoy, and I've heard a lot of people say that. I would argue that he's one of our most requested guests here on the program because he's so knowledgeable, and I enjoy shooting the breeze with him because we've known each other for so long, and I worked for him for a little bit as his communications director when he was in Congress. So I enjoyed that interview with Joe yesterday as well. All right, now let's get to the news before we have to take, I should actually take my break. I said before we take our break. All right, we're going to get the news after the break, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So obviously, we can't put off the story any longer. Hunter indicted on those gun charges. CNN put together, yes, CNN, so take it with a grain of salt, what the 3 charges are, a little bit about the history. I always find it interesting. Everything you need to know about the Justice Department's indictment of Hunter Biden. Well, you could argue CNN, you've been pretty quiet about the coverage from day one, so I'm sure you've got a lot of catching up to do to let your viewers and readers know about the story. Now, the gun itself that this indictment stems from was purchased in 2018. He admits in his book that he was on drugs at the time, so he lied on the forms. The gun was eventually dumped by his, who was it? It was like his brother's wife, who he was having an affair with, but Bo had passed, something like that time frame. But she was so concerned of him having the gun that she threw it out in a garbage can, which is also not proper gun handling. But anyway, push that aside. The 3-count indictment was handed up Thursday by a federal grand jury in Delaware. Count 1 accuses Hunter Biden of lying on an ATF form when he bought the gun by falsely swearing that he wasn't addicted to illegal drugs or using illegal drugs. Count 2 accuses Hunter Biden of lying to the federally licensed gun dealer in Wilmington, where he bought the gun. The alleged lie was related to the same sworn statement on the ATF form. And count 3 accuses Hunter Biden of illegally possessing a gun while using drugs or being addicted to drugs, which is a federal crime. He possessed a gun for 11 days back in 2018. So he could face up to 25 years in prison and fines up to $750,000. They are figuring out when he will self-surrender or have his initial appearance. I'm sure we'll talk about that when we learn more. Now, his attorney, how am I doing on time? I do have to take another break here in just a moment. But his attorney said Hunter owned an unloaded gun for 11 days. I find that interesting. That's the argument they're using so far. He owned an unloaded gun for 11 days. That doesn't negate the fact that he lied on the forms to buy the gun. I'm not really sure. And I mean, how do you verify that it was unloaded? The woman who dumped the gun into the garbage can felt that it was a big enough concern that she needed to get rid of it. But, quote, I'll continue with the quote. There will never have been a charge like this brought in the United States. That's the argument as of yesterday, according to CNN. So let's take another break. We're going to continue on this. I'd love to have you weigh in on it. There is our contact information. And of course, when I don't have that up on the screen, if you look on the bottom of your screen where that little hand is, for people that wave, you can text to that number or leave me a voicemail. So we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. This is one of those mornings where I feel like we are running fast because we have so much to talk about, and I really appreciate you joining us. We always have a lot of fun on Fridays, but we do every day, if you really think about it. Representative Daniel Goldman from New York, Democrat from New York, he discussed the Hunter Biden case on CNN's AC 360 with Anderson Cooper. And he makes the argument, and I'd love to hear your take on this, that he said, when you heard of the two-tiered justice system, I would argue that Hunter Biden is getting the worst of it because his last name is Biden, not the other way around. I guess that's ignoring the original plea deal. I guess the new talking point, I've heard this numerous times, that he's actually getting it worse because he's Biden. They're trying to make a point. I think that's somewhat what the White House is trying to say with their messaging, which is because of impeachment and because of the government shutdown, this is a distraction. Which is interesting because if you look at the gun laws that he's being charged with, President Biden has been a very big proponent of stricter gun laws. So it's very fascinating to see how they twist themselves into a pretzel to somewhat defend it, like Hunter's lawyer saying it was unloaded, which, again, I don't understand how that erases the fact, because I don't even know if we accept that idea that it was unloaded for 11 days. But let's say you do. You take that at face value. That does not change the fact that he lied on the form to purchase that gun. But anyway, half of Americans have little or no confidence in the Department of Justice's handling of the Hunter Biden probe. This is interesting because there's a piece at the New York Post that says, with this charge, maybe America can start regaining trust in the rule of law. We'll get to that in a moment. Half of Americans are not confident that President Biden's Justice Department is handling the Hunter Biden case in a fair and nonpartisan manner. A total of 28% of voters were, quote, not very confident, and 22% were not at all confident that the DOJ probe into the first son's alleged tax and gun crimes were being handled in a fair and unbiased manner. This coming from the Associated Press. Only 19% said they were extremely or very confident with the government's handling of the investigation. Those numbers don't add up to 100%. I would probably, it doesn't say here, but I would assume that many are not even aware of what's going on with this, because it really, the coverage has been all catch up. Well, we never covered this in the first place. Now we have to cover it, but in a way to protect the Bidens. And that's why, who was it? CNN did a fact check on the impeachment inquiry on that side of the coin. And it was about McCarthy's claims about the impeachment inquiry. And they were all proved true. They were all factual, but they had to present it in a way that made you question what McCarthy had been doing. But I'm getting on side notes here because I have so much I want to talk about that I'm getting excited, folks. I really am. So the Post editorial board says, maybe now America can start regaining trust in the rule of law. Here's the problem I have with that. And please feel free to contact me if you disagree. So many things surrounded this to the lead up of these charges. And this hasn't even gotten into the tax fraud or any of that issue. Or the business dealings, which we're learning more about, and I hope with the impeachment inquiry we'll learn a lot more about. But when you had that original sweetheart deal, and the only reason that didn't go through, that he didn't have full immunity, is because that judge had the courage to say, what is it? This is unprecedented. I think we're very lucky to have had that judge, not just rubber stamp it. So I don't know if it puts trust back, and maybe it helps start building that trust. Even then, I have my doubts. Only time can tell just where the indictments of Hunter Biden on felony gun charges will lead. The only thing certain so far is that special counsel David Wise clearly realized he couldn't let the statute of limitations pass without indicting Hunter again. And that's what happened with the tax issue. Let the statute of limitations run out. Not when an avalanche of whistleblowers and more reluctant witnesses have testified to how badly Wise, and because of Wise, also Attorney General Merrick Garland, botched the serious tax felony investigation until it was too late to charge. Would you say that it was botched? Would you say that they screwed up, or was that the ultimate goal? Was the goal to stall and delay until the statute of limitations ran out. But how Wise proceeds to prosecute this case specifically when his day job as Delaware District Attorney will still ultimately work for the defendant's father is a huge mystery. Hunter's lawyers, understandably, still want to revive the plea deal that would let him walk. But the judge already vetoed that unprecedented, that was her words, bargain. The evidence makes it an open and shut case. Hunter's own autobiography shows he was near constantly drugged up at the time in question, and if necessary, a long parade of witnesses can testify to that. One of the ironies that the Post mentions is that President Biden routinely crusades on the need for tough gun laws like the ones that could now send his son away for a decade or more, up to 25 years. What does he say in court if Hunter's lawyers demand that he testify as they are now threatening? Yeah, that was a weird threat. His lawyers have made, I think, some really, I'm not a lawyer, but poor decisions. That really, he had such a good thing going for him that I almost feel that the lawyers got a little too cocky. So are they going to call in the president to testify? So all very interesting. I don't know if it leads to a regaining of trust for the rule of law. I guess that only time will tell, as they put in their piece. But it does make you, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it does, when you look at the overall picture, it does make you question what's going on behind the scenes. And someone who will use that, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with me or not, someone that will be able to use this and point to this is the former president, Donald Trump, in his campaign. Look at what they've done to me with indictments, and look at what Hunter was about to get or did get, whatever ends up happening. So it is definitely going to be a campaign point. And that's the case when CNN does a piece saying this has been a bad week for Joe Biden. I don't want to say the long knives are out for Biden, but there does seem to be a lot of momentum to maybe push him aside. We talked about this extensively yesterday with Joe Sempolinski, the former congressman, but just the coverage of starting to get negative coverage, starting to focus maybe more on Hunter than they normally would, more on the business dealings. They're still doing it protectively in case, like Joe said, Biden gets the ultimate say in this. There's no mechanism there to say, sorry, Joe, you're not running. He's the incumbent. He can run if he wants to. So they can't completely go all in and say, get out, or this is how bad he's been doing, or whatever. Because then if he ultimately says, no, I'm running, they still have to be there to protect him as the media. Also, one thing that I learned from the New York Times, which is interesting, that Hunter and Joe Biden speak on the phone frequently and occasionally talk politics. Quote, people who know both men say their bond is singular in its intensity. But even allies of President Biden, who prides himself on his political and human instincts, say he has at times been too deferential to his younger son, appearing unwilling to tell him no, despite Hunter's problems and his long trail of bad decisions. I continue with this quote. This is interesting. Again, New York Times. Mr. Biden's devotion to his son means that he has long followed Hunter's lead. Allies of the president have deep respect for the bond, but have privately criticized Mr. Biden's apparent inability to say no when Hunter sought to pull him in to his business dealings. Is that kind of a little precursor to say we may be finding something about Joe Biden being involved in Hunter's business deals? Because even, and we do have to take a break, but even, and maybe we'll get to this in a moment, Jake Tapper and others saying, if nothing else, Hunter and Biden's family profited off of Joe Biden's name. Isn't that a little slimy? That's not Jake Tapper's words, but isn't that alone, maybe not illegal, but isn't that very slimy, kind of that idea? We'll talk more about this. Please weigh in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. I knew we'd have just a couple seconds there of silence, so I thought I'd put up that announcement so you'd be prepared for tomorrow. The Interstate 86 exit 43 ramp will be closed from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. Wanted to pass that along, giving you all the information you need to know here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. As I said, we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I am your host, Frank Acom. So we're talking about Hunter Biden. CNN's Jake Tapper said Biden has at least been letting his family profit off the relationship with him, at the least. Yeah, I mean that's something that is pretty well accepted at this point. Now, what Fox News learned is that oversight Democrats, House Democrats, acknowledged Wednesday that Hunter Biden's then business partner, Eric Sherwin, handled President Biden's finances for the duration of his vice presidency. Kind of interesting, right? A spokesman for the Democrat minority of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability told Fox News Digital that Sherwin, the former president of Hunter's Rosemont Seneca Advisors and a frequent visitor to the Obama-Biden White House, served as then Vice President Biden's bookkeeper from 2009 to 2017. Notably, Mr. Sherwin, who served as then Vice President Biden's bookkeeper from 2009 to 2017, explained that he was not aware of any transactions into or out of then Vice President's bank accounts related to business conduct by the Biden family member, a spokesman said in a statement. Just something to keep in mind, trying to get you all the information. So I mentioned CNN says that Biden's weaknesses were on display this week, one being Hunter's past, the other being the president's age. Now, to have this headline as CNN is, to me, pretty fascinating. I'm going to show you the screen real quick, but because CNN wants to just put up a big ad, it's not going to show you much. But that's the article itself by Zachary B. Wolf. And it goes and says 2 major threats to Joe Biden's reelection: his son Hunter's legal problems and the widely held perception. Isn't that interesting why they put that? The widely held perception that 80-year-old is too old for reelection. They are both causing major pains for Biden this week. Hunter Biden was indicted on federal gun charges, accused of lying about his past drug abuse and violating a gun law when he bought a handgun in 2018 before his father's presidential campaign. The weapon was later abandoned. This is, thank you. I couldn't remember which article had the specifics, and I know I didn't give you the specifics. The weapon was later abandoned behind a grocery store by Hallie Biden, the wife of Hunter's late brother, Beau. Hallie and Hunter were having an affair at the time. There's your feedback. So I was pretty accurate. Then again, the way they word this, but the sad and sordid family drama of addiction could land the president's son in prison, although separate investigations on tax evasion and foreign business dealings have not yet led to charges from Wise, who was elevated earlier this year to special counsel. Yeah, that shoe has not dropped. Now, whether or not that shoe will drop is the $1 million question. But even if there's nothing to tie President Biden, see how they word this at CNN? Let's just say Democrats get the benefit of the doubt, where I don't think this sentence would have been worded this way if it were a Trump or a Bush or you name it. Even if there's nothing to tie President Biden to the millions of dollars Hunter Biden and other family members made from interests in China, Ukraine, and elsewhere, most Americans are not convinced. Well, you say there's no evidence, but isn't that what the impeachment inquiry is all about? I mean, we still don't know what are in those emails using aliases, which, as we talked about again with Joe Sempolinski yesterday, very questionable just at face value with that. Anyway, well, more than half the country, 61%, thinks Biden had some involvement in his son's business dealings while serving as vice president. Well, let's just say at face value again. Why wouldn't, if people are aware of this story, why wouldn't they think that Biden had something to do with it? You look at the breakfast meetings and the lunch and the phone calls and the saying, hey, my dad's really wondering. Now, they're going to make the argument that maybe Biden wasn't there, that Hunter was just using the name. But you can understand why the American people, they're not dumb. And they understand it. They see what was going on from just what we've learned so far. And then the age issue is the second part to this. And then I got to take a break. But I mentioned yesterday, Dave Ignatius from the Washington Post said this week, Biden's age isn't just a Fox News trope. It's been the subject of dinner table conversations across America this summer. So the public perception, again, they keep saying that, the public perception of his relationship with his son is not even the most concerning element for Biden in the poll. That would be his age. So they highlight, could somebody else step up? Is there an alternative? Ignatius, of course, says not Harris. We don't want Harris. That was another part of that article. And like I mentioned, yesterday about that article is really interesting because Ignatius wants to like Biden. He wants to like Harris. And he does. But it reads like, the article reads like, and I'm not the one that came up with this, but it's very true, of someone having to sit down with their grandparent and tell them that they can no longer have the keys to their car. So it's from a real warm place. We really like the job that you did, but it's time to move on type atmosphere. So they're saying, but who could be next? And if you look at it, Nancy Pelosi yesterday, somebody else, not showing any confidence in Harris as vice president. So you know that they're not looking at her to maybe take the helm in this campaign. So I don't think anybody has a strong answer on who could be next. There's not a lot of name recognition out there. Gavin Newsom is known only because it's kind of a joke how it looks like he's running for president, even though he's not. But we have to take a break. I just heard the Corning whistle. We're running a little late. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I have to take a short break because I am running late, but I dropped the ball on this. I meant to promote this quite a few times, and boy, didn't August go really fast, and now we're halfway through September. So I apologize, but a celebration of Native American culture is returning to our area. All are welcome to the annual Native Nations Festival, which is tomorrow and Sunday. And that's at the Y at Watson's Woods. You probably remember it as Watson Homestead. Admission and parking are free and open to the public. It's going to be an amazing event. And thank you to those who text me to remind me to mention it. Now, tomorrow it's from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Again, this is at what was formerly Watson Homestead, now called the Y at Watson Woods. So tomorrow, 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. and on Sunday, 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. And if you want to put it in your GPS, that's 9620 Dry Run Road in Painted Post. So again, thank you for the reminder so I can promote that. One more quick break. Well, actually 2 more quick breaks, and then we'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. So we were talking about President Biden's, the real issue that people are having in his own party about maybe his mental awareness. Did you see yesterday that Biden boasted about teaching a political theory class at UPenn? But he never taught a single class at the Ivy League school. And before I talk about this specifically, I had mentioned numerous times on this program, the talking point is going to be that the only way to save democracy is by voting Joe Biden. I told you you're going to get sick of hearing it. It's going to be the major talking point from here till November of next year. And that's exactly how this starts. Our democracy is under attack, and we got to fight for it. I taught at the University of Pennsylvania for 4 years. And I used to teach political theory. And folks, you always hear every generation has to fight for democracy. He never taught. He had he was an honorary professor. Gave a couple of appearances there, but never taught a class for 4 years. One commentator, author Carol Roth, mocked, and I think this is a good line, Biden's pretend life sounds very fun and interesting. Ariel Davidson tweeted out, everyone screamed about George Santos, but when Biden does it, it's apparently fine. That's a fair point, though I think we should have screamed about Santos, but it is a fair point to look at the difference in coverage. Let's take our last break, and then we're going to wrap up, and we're going to go quick. Excuse me, tongue-tied this morning. We're going to go real quick. A lot of great articles that we just did not have time to get to because it's one of those shows we're just having too much fun. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Just to my point that I was saying earlier, there's a piece out by James Bovard at the New York Post saying, citizens, only supreme leader Joe Biden can save democracy. And it's very much what we've been saying on this program, that is obviously going to be what they're running on You see it already that he's the only way we can save democracy. This is who I was talking about earlier. Couldn't think of the name. Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, representative, was on the lead. And Tapper really kept going after, do you think Kamala Harris makes a good VP? Do you think she's doing a good job? And would not say yes. Would not say yes. Finally, Tapper said, you could say yes. Because Raskin responded, I don't know what else I could say. I don't know whether President Biden has named his running mate, Raskin said. We're going to a convention next summer. You know, it's a year away from now, and we're going to go through that process. So now almost a suggestion that it's not a done deal. So Tapper interjects, I mean, you could say yes. You could say, yes, I think Kamala Harris is the best vice president and the best running mate for President Biden. That's the answer you could be giving me right now. Yes, she is. Raskin said, so I've not seen any public opinion polling. You know, as you might be a strong vice presidential running mate than her or me or anybody else. I don't know who else is you're talking about in the polling, but I would tell you, as a matter of substance and public policy, she'd be an excellent choice. She and the president have done an excellent job. She'd be an excellent choice. Like it's not set in stone. Isn't that interesting? You don't normally word it that way. Well, she would make a good choice. Well, she's been doing it for 4 years. You don't highlight that? That's between that, Raskins and Pelosi the other day saying, well, Biden likes her. That's not a good sign for Harris. Hey, here we go. Buckle in. Going to go fast. This is scary. A growing number of people on the U.S. terrorist watch list have been encountered at the border. We talked about the need to secure the border. We've talked about the failed policies of the Biden administration when it comes to our border. As a matter of fact, even Cuomo, yes, former governor, disgraced governor, Andrew Cuomo, blames the Biden administration for New York City's migrant crisis. He called it a federal responsibility. Can I also say I want to make you cringe this morning because the former governor was asked, are you going to do anything going forward? What's your political career look like in the future? This again, Andrew Cuomo. He said, he didn't answer specifically, but he joked he's, get ready, quote, still a cool dude in a loose mood. So I'm going to keep all my options open. Still a cool dude in a loose mood. Anyway, the growing number of people on the U.S. terrorist watch list are being encountered at the border, and I don't take that lightly. I just got on a tangent there. Approximately 160 non-U.S. citizens on the terrorist watch list attempted to cross into the U.S. in 2023. Quote, most of whom were encountered attempting to illegally enter between ports of entry. All right, and one final piece. If you get a chance, you can find it at Empire Report. It's by the Times Union and Chris Churchill. It is, behold the staggering idiocy of New York's marijuana rollout. It's a good piece. It kind of gives you a look at what the state screwed up royally. So that is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you again to Matt Smith from the Corning Building Company for being on the program. Again, they're celebrating 175 years in business. Amazing. Join them for the celebration September 22nd from 11:30 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. And lunch is on Corning Building Company. It's going to be a fun time. All right, have a great weekend, folks. Fun, safe weekend. We'll be back Monday morning with Frankly Speaking, and I'm looking forward to it already. So join us at 7 o'clock. We'll see you then.